Hello and welcome to GrossiMath.com, where math is for everyone. Today we're going to take a look at multiplying in algebra, or what I call the SNL or snail method. The secret to multiplying in algebra is to take it easy, to go nice and slow and use this snail method right here. We're going to jump right in because I think the easiest way to learn this is to see it. So first of all, let me explain that I call it the SNL method because first you're going to multiply the sign, then you're going to multiply any numbers, and then you're going to multiply any letters. And that's how you're basically going to do these problems. So let's take a look at a sample. So here I see an expression, and guess what I'm going to do first? Of course, I'm going to identify my terms. Okay, now, when we are looking for multiplication, what we do, try to establish which one looks like it needs multiplying. Well, obviously this one does, and the reason it does is because it has parentheses. And we all know from way back that parentheses mean that we might need to multiply. Well, in this problem, we're going to multiply, but we're going to multiply using an algebra method, basically called the SNL method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look inside the parentheses. Now, this is the method now, okay? So I'm going to look inside the parentheses, and I'm going to identify the terms inside the parentheses. Okay, now we haven't done that before, but that's part of the new method. Look inside the parentheses and see what are the terms inside those parentheses. Underneath those terms, I want you to write SNL, SNL. Okay, so each term gets its own little snail. Okay, now outside the parentheses, I see this negative 3x. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that negative 3x and I'm going to write it on top of these terms. Negative 3x, negative 3x. Okay, each term gets its own. Each term gets a snail, and each term gets whatever was outside the parentheses. So negative 3x, negative 3x. So each of these gets one, and that uses up this negative 3x. So that way we're not looking at a big mess. Okay, you can kind of think that once you gave it to each of these terms, it is used up. Okay, so now let's take a look at our multiplication process. The snail method is one of the best methods for doing this. Okay, there are a couple special rules that I'll introduce you to along the way, but please, so far it's been easy. Let's keep it easy. First, I'm going to do S, which stands for sign. So all I'm going to do is look at the signs of these two terms right here, the one on the top and the one in the box. Well, this is a negative, and this one's an implied positive, right? Well, remember this rule. If they're different, your outcome will be negative. If they're the same, your outcome will be positive. Well, this one is a negative and a positive, okay? So a negative and a positive results with a negative, okay? All right, next one. Number. N stands for number. Let's just multiply only the numbers. Don't worry about that negative. We already took care of it. We're just going to focus on the numbers. 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay. Now let's do the letters. Now letters are a lot easier than you think they're going to be. I can tell you that right away. All you're going to do is go, hey, look, there's an X and another X. Well, how many X's does that make? It makes 2 of them. So we're going to put X squared. The little 2 indicates that you multiplied 2 letter X's. And that's it. The first term is done now. You see how easy the snail method is. Negative 3x is used up on this positive 2x. And we multiplied them together to get this outcome. Okay, now we're going to go to the next term. Now, please, when you go to the next snail, do not write anything here that's just an extra thing. Just go straight to the next signs. The snail will take care of you if you follow the snail, okay? All right, so S is for signs, negative and negative. Well, remember the rule I just said. If they're different, they result in a negative. If they are the same, they result in a positive. So I'm going to go put a positive there. Now I'm going to do my numbers. 3 times 5 makes 15. Now I'm going to do my letters, and this is our first special rule that we're going to see. Look, there's an X here, but oh no, there's no letter here. What should I do? Well, actually, that's really simple. We think of that kind of like a blank, okay? So an X and a blank, all I had was an X, so I'm just going to keep the X. That's it. In other words, blanks don't count. The blank has no effect. So don't worry about the negative or the 5. Just say X oh, there's no letter here, that's a blank, and blank has no effect, so I'll just keep the x. So x times blank makes x. So next, what we're going to do is, well, what happened with this positive 1? Should I do anything with that? And the answer is not on this step. No, we're not going to do anything with this positive 1, except we'll just bring it down. Because that positive 1 term, we didn't mess with it. So it's just going to drop down. But right now, we are finished with our SNL cycles. And I should have crossed this out, right? Because that one's done also. When we finish this second snail, this whole column was finished. And this is now my multiplied expression. So what I did was I multiplied here, and I got my new expression. So this would be your outcome. Negative 6x squared plus 15x plus 1. Okay, let's try it one more time. But before we go looking at it, I just want to make sure everybody understands the next problem will look a little scary, okay? But I promise you, the purpose of the snail method is to take it easy. Just go nice and slow. So we're going to break it down into terms, and then we're going to use the snail method. All right, so look at this problem. It looks really big, right? Okay, so there's a couple of things I'm going to say before I do this problem. Number one, what we're going to do right now is just the snail method, okay? If we were doing this entire problem, there would be more steps, but I'm actually going to put that into a second video because it would make this one really long, okay? All right, so let's just do the snail step on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and identify my terms. Just as a reminder, remember, the reason I'm skipping this plus sign right here is because it's wrapped in parentheses, okay? So you're allowed to make big terms. And if you don't remember how to identify terms, please go back and watch one of the earlier videos in this playlist. Now what do I do? Well, I can see that the first term has no parentheses, so that 5 is going to be okay for now. This one has parentheses, so it's going to get some work. This one has parentheses, so it's going to get some work. And this one does not have parentheses, so I'm going to leave it alone for now. Okay, so now I'm just going to focus on these two terms. And you see now why terms are useful. The terms are allowing me to break this down into smaller problems so that way it doesn't have to look so scary. So let's go in this first multiplication, this first box with parentheses, and let's identify the terms inside the parentheses, a and positive 4. And underneath those two, I'm going to write SNL, SNL. Okay, and now here I have a negative 3, and I said I'll put that on top of each of those boxes. Now, does it matter that this one didn't have a letter? Not at all. Just whatever's outside the parentheses, that's what you're going to copy up here. Just make sure that each term gets its own copy, and that uses up your negative 3. Okay, now let's do these steps. Okay, so I'll write with green to cross out. Okay, so sign. Negative and positive. Remember, this A has no sign on it, so it counts as a positive. Negative and positive are different. That means that the outcome is negative. Okay, now number. 3 and blank. There is no number in here, so if there's nothing visible there, just keep what you had. So 3 and blank makes 3. Okay? Remember, the blank has no effect. So there is no other number. Don't be thinking it's 3 times A. I don't want you to think of it that way. I want you to think of it as 3, and there is no number in here, so just leave the 3. Save the A for the letter part. Okay, the letter. There's no letter here, and there's an A here. So this one has the blank now. Blank times A, and guess what? All I'm going to do is keep the A. All right. And now SNL, the first snail is done, so I'm done with that term. Okay, now I'm going to do my next SNL. All right, negative and positive. They're different, so that means I'm going to do a negative. Okay, number, 3 times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, and here's our next special. If you have 2 blanks, the outcome is blank. So blank, there's no letter here, and there's no letter here. So there's no letter here. That's easy, right? Okay, so again, the blank basically has no effect. We're just not going to write it. So the letter part is almost automatically done for us, so to speak. So that takes care of this negative 3 and this positive 4. And this whole term is done now. Okay, now let's do this one. Identify the terms in the parentheses. I'm going to try to do this one a little faster so that the video is not too long. Write my snails under each term. Copy whatever was outside the parentheses on top of each term. That wastes whatever was outside. Okay, now this one I'll write with blue. Okay, so let's do this. Signs, negative and positive, are different, so that makes negative. 2 times 3 makes 6. A times blank makes A. Remember, the blank has no effect. Okay, that gets rid of these. Now I'm going to go to my S. Negative times negative makes positive. That's because they're the same. If they're the same, you get a positive. If they're different, you get a negative. Okay, number. 2, and there is no number in here. There's just a sign and a letter. So there's no number. That means I just keep the 2. Blank has no effect. Okay, 2 times blank makes 2. And A and A. A times A are my letters. Okay, well, remember what I said in the first slide. A and A, there are 2 letter A's. So up here, I just put a little 2 to show that I started out with 2 letter A's. And that's all you need. You have now multiplied those. And what did I say to do with these terms, the ones that we did not do our snail steps on? I said, just bring them down. So here there would be a 5. And here there would be a plus A squared. Okay, so now look at this thing. It's kind of spaced out, but that's actually your final outcome. Okay, so I'll write the whole thing together just so you can see where we're at. 5 minus 3A minus 12. It's important you understand I'm not doing any math right now. I'm just writing it a little more neatly. Negative 6A plus 2A squared plus A squared. And that's my outcome after I multiply. Sometimes the snail method is called distributing, but I don't really like that word because I think it makes math sound more confusing. The snail method actually guides you through the problem, so I like it a little better. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and to visit the website where math is for everyone, www.grossimath.com. Have a great day.